You're obviously no stranger to awards, but I have to ask, what makes the BIFAs something very special?
Well, these are the Independent Film Awards, and if you look at what won tonight, it's a film that cost £40,000 to make, and that may not otherwise, without this win, have had the kind of profile that I hope it gets so that people watch it. You know, we get all these magnificent films submitted and we try and choose, and the jury do choose what they think of as the best films, but it isn't always the case that the films that garner with prizes then find an audience. What's nice about, what's great I think about the world we're living in at the moment, is that audiences are seeking out great independent films, if not necessarily at the cinema. There are other outlets for them online now, and more cable channels as they proliferate. There are outlets for these great stories to be told.
Of course, you were personally presenting Julie Walters with a very well-deserved award tonight. What do you think makes her one of our brighter stars?
Well, what makes Julie Walters so special is she's not just a filmmaker, and has starred in a whole bunch of films, both bigger and smaller budget films, and that she's prepared to take risks on first-time directors and new writers and stuff, but that she's also the nation's favourite comedienne. She's also a genius stage actress. She's also dripping with BAFTAs from her fantastic work on television with Alan Bennett and Alan Bleasdale and Willie Ross. Not Willie Russell, he made Education Rita. But the fact is that all disciplines she is the mistress of, and she brings and cross-pollinates the audience, which is fantastic for the independent film world. By the way, she's an absolute darling.
Of course. Now, focusing on yourself and film specifically, I believe you're working on Fury at the moment, which is a very exciting project. Can you tell us a little bit about where you fit into that at all?
I'm just the guy that gives Brad the orders where to go with his tank and what to do with his tank. And then he goes and does it, and extraordinary things happen to him and the guys in the tank. It's really about him and the tank team. And I thought it was such a fantastic script, I said I'd do anything in it. I'd be just as happy making the coffee on the set as playing my part.
Of course, I mean, David Ayer, a wonderful director on that project. Can you talk a little bit about him and what do you think makes him such an exciting filmmaker?
I think David Ayer writes men in a group like no one I've ever read. I think, I remember when I first talked to him about being this film, and I said, how much of End of Watch was improvised? He said, none of it. And it was kind of hard to believe because End of Watch feels completely spontaneous and improvised. And he's a great writer. He was in a nuclear sub for a couple of years. Kind of understands men in tight situations, and he's also. It's interesting to watch him direct because I know his work as a writer, but as a director, he's both utterly and appropriately controlling, and also creates an atmosphere of complete freedom. He's a special guy.
Of course, I mean, Brad Pitt, one of the world's biggest film stars, but also one of our most versatile and interesting performers in a lot of ways. Can you just talk a little bit about what it was like working with him and sharing screen time with him?
He's the other guy in the scene. He's fabulous. I mean, actors are their own. It's binary. They're either in the scene, they're not in the scene. He's in the scene. He's alive in the moment. He's up for whatever happens, and and he's one of the guys. I mean, he went off with the men in the tank, and they did their preparation, whatever research they did, living in the tank for a week and fighting imaginary enemies and bonding with each other. And he rolled his sleeves up and joined in. He's a thoroughly decent guy.
Of course, fans are going to be desperate to know where else are we going to see you. Are there any other projects that you're working on at the moment?
Well, I've got some films coming out. Some indie films, appropriately the British Independent Film Awards. I've been in America. I've done a film called Things People Do, which I thought was fab. Field of Lost Shoes, Dawn. I was just in London Fields a bit here as well. And when any of those are coming out, it's hard to know. I think they're all films that will hopefully be submitted to festivals, and we'll see what happens. Developing a television series in America that I hope will be good, or made, I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying spreading my wings, trying to be a bit of a producer, and we'll see, either pulling it off or not.
I mean, you say you're developing a show in America. Is that something that you would star in, or just on a producing side?
Well, actually a few. There is one I've sold. That they're paying a writer to write that if it gets made, I would be in probably. And then there's other things that I'm trying to get set up that I wouldn't be in. Just kind of enjoying all aspects of the storytelling business, and then eventually, hopefully, trying to make a living from it too.
I'm very curious. I mean, obviously, the American TV landscape seems so exciting at the moment. The range of shows and the chances, I think, that American TV takes.
Oh, I don't know. We get the best of it over here. There's a lot. American television is a very, very odd beast because they make pilots for so many things. So the shows that succeed that we see over here are one of a small number of shows that they put on American television, and the numbers of shows they make for American television is a small number from the pilots that they make. So most things that stand in front of a camera to be episode 1 never reach the air, and then most series they start get cancelled. So we're really seeing we're cherry picking over here.
We're keeping our fingers crossed that a lot of viewers end up on the air, and we'll be watching all of them. My final question, obviously you're a big part of the Harry Potter series, which the most beloved and successful film franchise of all time. We now know that there's going to be more films spin-off. I'm curious, how do you feel about that? How did you feel when you heard that news? And would you have any interest at any point, if you were asked, would you want to come back and be a part of that universe again?
I'm not sure that that's a possibility. My understanding, which is all third hand from the stuff that anyone else can read, is that it's set many years before the stories that happen. So it won't be an option for me. If it was an option, I would jump at it. I absolutely loved it. I didn't do it that much to get bored of it. You know, Lucius popped up for me every couple of years for a couple of months. So, yeah, I would willingly grab hold of the wand again.